Hi friends, it's Becky, and I am really feeling like following through on my initial plans for this butterfly component that I got in the Dollar Bead box for July of 2024. This will be the second thing that I've made with this box this month. The first one was a bracelet that I used some of these silky beads and some of the fire polish beads to make. It was a really quick project. I'll put a link to that in the description below. But for this one, I want to make a necklace, and I would like to do a little bit of wire wrapping to get some of these smaller fire polish beads wrapped around the edges of this pendant. And to do that, I'm going to be using some 26 gauge wire. And then I want to use some of these other beads to make a beaded chain necklace. And so to do that, I'm going to be using some 22 gauge wire for that. So the beads that I want to use for wire wrapping are going to be these blue and the dark blue iris, light blue, dark blue. We're going to be using those, and this is the 3mm fire polish beads that came in my Dollar Bead bag for that month. I'd also like to, for the focal, use this really pretty flower bead, so we're going to have this be all part of the focal. And then for the actual necklace, I want to use some of these 4mm fire polish beads that in this light blue color. Want to use some of these flower beads. I'm going to use these pearls and some of these saucer beads as well. So these will all become little links for a beaded chain, but we'll get to that later. I just want to get all of these out and get ready to make stuff with them. Let me move these aside for now so they're out of the way. And let's get started doing our little wire wrapping for my butterfly. And I think what I want to do first is pull off some of my wire. And I think I want enough wire to go all the way around it. So let's see, it's about 8 inches of wire. I'm using a flush cutter to cut my wire, but I'm going to use that initially. And then when I start making my links, I'm also going to be using some round nose pliers and some chain nose pliers, but we'll get to those in a little bit. For now, let's just get started with this 26 gauge wire. And I'm going to start it. It looks like we've got 2 holes in the middle here. So when we get to actually putting it together, we'll do something fun with it there. But I'm going to put this wire through one of these holes. And I'm just going to go through that hole with the short end and pull it through just to wrap it once and then one more time, so that that short end is attached, and then I can start doing stuff with the long end. So I think that's going to be just fine for this. I can cut my extra bit off later, and I think I want this to just go all the way around the outside. But I'm going to use a second piece of wire to attach it. I'm going to string a bunch of these beads on because it's going to go around like this. just going to string on as many beads as I feel like, and then just do a little bend at the end to keep them on here and keep them from flying off while I'm working with it. And I'm probably not going to use all of these beads for this. And that is perfectly fine. I'm thinking that for my beaded chain part, I want to do an asymmetrical design. So on one half of it, it'll be using some beads and then different beads for the other half of it. I think that'll look really cool. All right, just a few more. I can probably add more on later. Or actually, let me just get as many on here as I want to, because I can always take them off when I get to the end of this. All right, I'm just going to make myself a little bit of a loop here, right there, in order to keep these beads from flying off as I'm working through it. Once again, I'm going to be wrapping them onto the edges of this filigree design, and so to do that, I'm going to need more wire. So let's cut about, let's say 12 inches of wire. No, let's do 15, just so that I've got enough to handle and to last. It's probably going to be too much, but that's okay, because I'd rather have too much than too little. All right, and I'm going to do sort of the same thing I did over here on this end with this shorter piece of wire. Going through at least once. That same hole. I'm pulling that through. All right, now I can get one bead in place and then go around it with my wire, like that. And then there's a little hole in my little filigree, so I'm going to go through it with this wire right there. And I'm going to be really gentle so that I don't get kinks in my wire, especially when it gets to be about this part. Try and help guide the wire through. This is one of the things about working with wire, is go slow and be patient. And then I slide that next bead next to it. And I'm going to want to go through this hole. I'm going to go all the way around this butterfly, wrapping these beads. Again, go slow, wrapping these beads onto the edge of the butterfly. Actually, I think I need to go around this so that I can get, no? Okay, so right here, I want it to come up from between this next one. So why don't I go, and I'm just gonna have to weave this into that hole just to move the end of my wire. There we go. So it comes up in the right place. Here we go, here we go. There we go. Bloom, 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 just like that. Right, and then I've got the next one. Guess you want to watch and make sure which holes you go in and out. Again, before you pull it tight, make sure it's not getting kinked and that it's not bent weird. Next one, like that. I think I'm going to have to go through this loop twice because we're going to have a corner to go around. There we go. Once, because I am going to need to bend this here so it will go all the way around. And it's totally fine if there's this space here because we're going to need some space between our beads as we wrap. So let's get this in to this loop. Wrap that. Yep, and we're going to do it 3 times into this one, it looks like. So the next one goes in again. So this will be how you can do a corner. And there are 4 corners that we'll need to work. Watch out for this. Next one. All right, so for this one, I'm going to want to go into this next little opening here. Oh, it doesn't go all the way through. That's fine. I can go into this one. Do you see? That one doesn't go all the way open. Okay, so I'm going to want it to go through this one next, I believe. You see how that goes all the way around that corner? I'm just sliding that next bead into place and then going around. Now, so I'm going to do this all the way around until it's completely wrapped on here. And when I come back, we'll finish it up and we will turn it into a focal using this bead as well. All right, so I am almost finished with this part of my wire wrapping. I have 2 extra beads, 2 more than I needed on here. Remember, I didn't count how many beads I put on. I just put them on until I felt like I had enough. So I'm just gonna unwrap this little wrapped up part. on here. Take those 2 extra beads off. And I am just getting ready to wrap my last bead on here with my longer piece of wire. So I'm going to go around. Whoop, where are you going, buddy? I'm using my thumb to hold it in place. So let's just go, 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 go. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so there's that one, and then there. So now that that is wrapped there, I am going to put both ends of this wire through that little hole there. And I'm just going to do 2 wraps around with both of these. This one has a few more kinks in it than the other. That's okay. This way. One of them is going this way and the other one's going the other way. So let's go around this way with that one. And then this way with the other one. And now I'm going to snip off my excess wire here from both of these and smoosh down any rough edged bits of wire with my flush cutters. Looks like I've got some right there that could use, or no, not flush cutters, my chain nose pliers. I could use some tucking in. I'm just feeling to make sure I don't have any rough edges. All right. So it's almost done. I'd like to make it into a pendant now, which will mean attaching a wire and making a loop. And I'd like for that wire to go up through this guy right here. So I'm going to use some more of these beads for this and some more of my 26 gauge wire. So let's cut off, again, probably another 9 inches or so. I'm guesstimating. And I'm going to find the middle of this one. And I feel like that is right there. Bring both ends together and then pull down at the bottom and you found the middle. All right. I would like to have kind of a sharper middle bend right here. So I'm going to use my pliers to hold it and then just kind of fold it. I don't want to squish it flat. I'd like for there to still be some movement on that. And I'm going to take one end and I'm going to put it through this lower hole on the bottom of this butterfly. And then I'm going to take the other end of my wire and I'm going to put it through the same hole but going in the opposite direction. Oop, there we go. Now I'm just going to pull both of these one at a time gently through here. My goal is for this corner to sit right here between these 2 beads. So I'm trying to get these guys to line up nicely. Gently, gently. Slowly, slowly. It's a little too much on that side. Let's pull a little bit more on the other side. Let's rotate that back that way. There we go. Now, just tightening this up just a little bit. This one back here, I'm going to go ahead and go all the way through this second hole in the middle of this guy. So he's going up straight like that, and that gets him out of the way. The next part is on this one right here that's coming out the front. Pop one of these 3mm fire polish beads on there, like that. Just blooped right there. And then I'm going to put this through that same hole that the other one is coming out of now, but going in the opposite direction. And I'm feeding this through gently, gently, slowly, slowly, so that it doesn't get kinked. All right. I'll put that little guy right there. And now this one, I'm just using my fingers to straighten it out a little bit. It's going to be up and out of the way back there. I sort of love this a little bit right there. But now I want to put a bead on here, like this, before we bring both of these together. I'm just using my fingernails to bring them together, like that. And I'm just going to do one little twist, and then bring these guys together again. Because that twist will take up a little bit of space. And then I'm going to take some of these beads and I'm going to put them on both wires at the same time and slide them down here, just like that. And put our flower bead on both wires at the same time, like that. And now I'm going to put on one more of these fire polish beads on both wires at the same time. And everything that I do after here is going to be both wires at the same time all together. So now I want to make myself a little loop up here at the top that I can connect my beaded chain to for this focal. So to do that, I am going to grasp these wires together right here at the top of this bead and then bend over the top. That gives me some room down here to wrap around when I make my loop. And now I'm going to make my loop here. Both wires over the top of my round nose pliers, open my round nose pliers to shift them around, and continue all the way around. And then I'm just going to use my fingers and pull this wire around like that to make myself a little wire wrapped loop. And actually, I think I'm going to do a thicker, messier wrap across the front of there. Whoop. the way down below that bead. Yeah. Yeah, I like that wrap. That's going to be a good wrap. That's a wrap. Cut off my excess and then use my chain nose pliers to tuck in my wire ends. And now I have my beaded focal, and I can start making my links. All right, so for these links, let me grab my 22 gauge wire. And let me show you each of the links that I'm going to make. They are going to be wire wrapped links. I'm using 22 gauge wire. Looks like the end is a little bit bent. There we go. So for each of these wire wrapped links, I am going to want them to be connected to the next link in a row. So I'm only going to wrap one side at a time. So this is one of the links that I'm going to be using. I'm using these flower beads as bead caps, about 2 inches from the end, 2.5 inches from the end. You use my round nose pliers. I'm going to bend back away from me with the wire and then bring it around towards me, and that gives me a centered loop. And then if I just use my fingers, since it's 22 gauge wire, it's pretty easy to manipulate. If you wanted to use some pliers to move it around, you can do that too. But I'm going to just wrap around the stem there about 3 times, cut off my excess, and then push my beads up to the bottom of there, and then sort of measure with my fingers about 2.5 finger widths. That's going to be enough space for me to be able to do my second wrapped loop. Now, I'm not going to be making that wrapped loop until after I've already started, well, actually, let's do this here and now because I don't want these to fall off. To make my second wrapped loop, I'm going to grasp my wire, bend that over the top. Again, that's going to make, once I wrap it around, my centered loop. But I'm not going to wrap it. I'm not going to wrap around with this until after I've put together all of my links. I just want my link to be created, and then I'll create all of them and then wrap them together as I make all of those. The second type of link that I'm going to be making is with these textured pearls, and I'm going to be doing it the same exact way. Sorry. I'll be making my wrapped loop on one end. And again, about 2 fingers from the bottom. And we'll bend over the top, make a loop. Like that. And so I'm going to make, looks like 7 of this type of link and 6 of this type of link. And then I'm going to make some little links for the other side using these 3mm drucks and these 4mm fire polish beads. And for those, I'll do a druck, a fire polish, and a druck. And it'll be the exact same thing. One, two, three. And then I'll make the links, and then when they're all made, I will put them together. I'll just make sure that I leave one of the loops unwrapped each time I make one of these links. Like that. So I'm gonna make just a bunch of these ones until I feel like I have enough. I'll give you a count when I come back, because that'll tell me how many I've actually made. But just to give you an idea of how this is going to work, after I've made a bunch of the links, I'll take the wrapped side of one of my links, slide it onto my loop on one of the unwrapped sides, and then we will go ahead and wrap it at that point. And that is how I will get all of these links linked together, all of this chain built. And when I've got both sides of my chain all wrapped out and all built together, then I will come back and we will put it all together as a necklace. So that's how it's going to work. And when I come back, I'll show you how many of these I've made, and I will have both ends of my chain ready to attach to my necklace. And then we'll grab a closure, and that will be the whole thing. So I will come back when that's done. Okay, I have both of my lengths of beaded chain finished. Like I said before, I had 7 of the pearl links and 6 of these textured check glass links for one strand. And then I told you that I would come up with a number for the next strand, and I needed 14 of these links. These were the ones that use the 4mm fire polish bead and 2 of the 3mm check drucks. And that gives me 2 lengths of chain that are approximately the same length. Now we can finish this up and get both of these lengths of chain attached to my focal that I just finished making. So on the length of the chain, as I went through and joined them together, I would join the unwrapped loop with the wrapped loop, and then that leaves me with one link that still has one loop unwrapped, and I can hook that onto this loop that I created here, and then wrap this. This will be one side of my chain. Cut off my excess and then tuck in the end. And then I want to add this end of my chain to this loop up here at the top as well for my butterfly with flower. This is a very fairy garden kind of a vibe that I'm getting from this necklace right now. And there we go. All right, and now that I've got both of these lengths of chain attached, this is longer than I usually do it, but that's fine because it's it's a fun and whimsical and pretty necklace. I'm going to attach, I've already got a loop on this side, so I'm just going to attach a jump ring and lobster clasp to this side so that it can connect to the other side, and then this necklace will be done. There we go. Beaded chain does take some time to make, but in my opinion, it is absolutely worth it when it's done. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to subscribe to the Dollar Bead box or Dollar Bead bag, I will put a link in the description. There's also a coupon code you can use to get, I believe it's $2 off of your first subscription. And I'll also put a link to the tutorial for the bracelet that I made with the first thing that I made with this bead box. And I hope y'all are having a fantastic day. Happy beading.